Hi, today I'm gonna show you how to knit this Valentine dog sweater. Let's get started. Please check my description box for all the details, especially written pattern, because this pattern is by Drops Design. The pattern number is 0-1010. I put the link below, so you have to go to their website and download it. I didn't follow every single pattern, such as leash opening, the cast on number, leg hole, length, stuff like that. So here and there, I put some special written pattern in my description box, but everything else, pretty much, their pattern. So you must download their website. Otherwise, you can't knit this sweater. All right? This is top-down sweater, starting with neck and going down towards to the leg. And whenever you reach the leg length, you kind of have to separate the chest part and back piece right there, around, right there. And then you knit the body part and chest part, then reconnect. And the sleeve, you knit, at the end. For the tummy, I want to make it short, obviously, because they have to pee. So stop, certain length and knit the back piece first, then reconnect again. For the legs, I don't have to explain, just knit up and, make a rib until your desired length. Pretty much it. Okay, so let's talk about the pattern. One thing I have to tell you, I didn't use their cast on number to start with because it was very tough call. My Yorkie is 11 pound. It's quite bigger Yorkie. And their sizing is extra small, small, medium, and large. And they said extra small is for Chihuahua and small for Shih Tzu or something. And then Chihuahua cast on number, extra small cast on number was 64. And the small size cast on number was 92. It's quite different. And medium size dog was 112 and large size is 140. I usually start with 70 cast on for my Yorkie. So 64 cast on is close. However, it says this is for Chihuahua. So I don't know, this is my old sweater. I knitted it for him. Again, cast on number was 70. So I thought about it and I took, gauge as well. And I decide I'm going to start with number in between 64 and 92 if I could figure it out. And I did. The first of all, the cast on number has to be multiple of 4 because the rib should be repeat of knit 2 and purl 2, but has to be close to multiple of 15 and between 64 and 92. I was kind of, looking for around 70, right? So, okay, multiple of 15. Why is that? Because the design is starting with group of 15 for any, size. Extra small, small, medium, and large. Everybody start with, the group of 15. And then later on, you will add little, uh, stitch, increase in the stitch to make it, the group of 16. So I thought about it. Start with multiple of 4 and close to something, multiple of 15 between number 64 and 92. Then I figured it out. It's 75. But this is not multiple of 4, so I add 1 stitch to make it multiple of 4. So my cast on number is 76 to start. At the very beginning, I wasn't sure 76 is too big or too small because my other dog sweater, again, started with 70 cast on and then increase towards to, the dog leg opening. And I usually increase quite a bit, right? But for this pattern, there's not much increasing. It's more like just a tube, So I wasn't quite sure. And I'm gonna make long story short. The result was perfect size for my Yorkie. I'm very glad I did it. I changed the cast on number. Okay, so what size is mine? I don't know. Between extra small and small. So what am I going to do for the chart, right? I am going to use small chart. There's, the 4 different chart. One for the extra small, one for small size, and the other 2 is for medium size and large size. Because, the length is, different, right? But the length, I was thinking, well, I can actually adjust the length anyway. So extra small, too short for my dog. I was quite sure. So I am going to use, a chart for size small. So if you want to follow my cast on number, you have to decide whether you want to use the, small size chart or medium size. It's really up to you, I believe. It's not that, big difference. But, don't use the extra small chart. Well, it's depend, you know. And again, this is not my pattern. Pattern by Drops Design. The link is in my description box. You have to go to their website and please download their written pattern. And the yarn detail, needle information, everything is in that pattern. And you can actually even go purchase the yarn they use. I use the leftover yarn, so, I just can tell you only number 4 yarn I used. And the needle was 3 millimeter and 3.5 millimeter. And this is the other, dog sweater. I knitted it by Drops Design again, the yellow one. It was beautiful, beautiful pattern. Okay. Anyway, so whenever you're ready, let's start knitting then. Again, my cast on number should be 76 to start. Cast on with red color, multiple of 4, I made 76. If you want to, knit extra small, 64. If it's small, 92. 112 for medium, and 140 for large dog. I adjust the number, so I am going to make 76 casts altogether, which is multiple of 4. After the cast, I will connect both ends and start knitting in round. Obviously, I am going to use magic loop technique. If you never done magic loop technique, I put the link in my description box. So please go check that out. The rib is with red color of yarn, and then repeat off, knit 2 and purl 2 until your desired length. Again, the pattern says, okay, knit certain length and stop right there and change your needle, blah blah blah. Definitely you should follow the written pattern, but nothing wrong to knit until your desired length, because maybe you want to get a shorter neck rib. Nothing wrong with it. I knitted it about 3.5 inch for the double neck rib. So you can use it kind of longer, neck version, or you can fold it and kind of shorter version. Either way. Or, you can just knit short length. If you want to, knit exactly same sweater as the, drops design, please follow the written pattern. After the neck rib, change the needle to 3.5 millimeter from 3 millimeter. So again, I knitted it about 3.5 inch, and I'm gonna, fold it in half. After you change the needle, I'm going to knit 2 rows with all knitting, and while I'm knitting in 2 rounds, you have to adjust the numbers because you need whole stitch count multiple of 15. Example, if you start with 64, okay, the closest number with multiple of 15 is 60. So you have to decrease 4 stitch. And what about the small size? If you are knitting small size, start with 92, and then 92 is not multiple of 15. So you have to decrease 2 to make it multiple of 15, right? What about me? I start with 76, right? Because, has to be multiple of 4 for the rib, right? So, what did I do? I add 1 stitch to make it 76. So I am going to decrease 1 stitch to make it 75 stitch, which is multiple of 15. And I am going to use knit together method to decrease 1. And one thing you have to be very careful, because I'm going to decrease only 1 stitch, so I can actually decrease anywhere I want. However, if you decrease more than 2, you have to decrease evenly. So, you know what I'm saying? You can't just decrease 2 at the same time, something like that. If it's only 2, it won't be too much problem, but you should decrease evenly because that's what the pattern says so. All right. How are you gonna decrease evenly? If you need to decrease 4, you can divide by 4, and then somewhere, in the middle, you can decrease one each at a time, right? That's about it. And again, decreasing method, need to together. And again, this sweater is like a tube type, right? There's not much increase and decrease. So, if you need to decrease or increase, you should do that evenly. All right. So again, how to do, decreasing, need to together. I'll show you how. Simple, knit, two stitch together. That's it. And after this, the design will be start with the every 15 stitch, right? So I am going to add markers every 15 stitch. The pattern didn't say so, but this way much easier, especially when you make a mistake. You will notice right away. Again, until you increase stitch right there, the design is, group of 15. So every, 15 stitch, you should add markers. If you don't really care about, you don't even have to add markers. It's really up to you. Anyway, now different color kicks in. And then the chart, how you read, if you're knitting in round, okay, you read the chart from right to left and from bottom to top. That's how you read. And later you will end up knitting in flat. Then you have to change the way you read the chart. Okay? Anyway, at the left top corner of the chart, there is the color indication. Okay? So the cross means red and white is white. So the first, the row is repeat of red, white, red, red, white, red, something like that. So anyway, let's start. You have to prepare the white color of yarn. And let's finish this second row of knitting. There you go. Row number 1, repeat of red 1, white 1, and red 1. So let's start with joining white yarn. Go. And then red. Again, repeat of red, white, red. And the important thing for Fair Isle, you shouldn't pull the working yarn so hard. If you do, you lose the elasticity, and then it's gonna be so tight, sweater. So you kind of grab the working yarn loosely. Okay, that's the important thing. Here comes red, white, red, red, white, red. And there you go. I made a mistake because I was supposed to finish with red. However, there was something wrong at the end. So there we go. I found the mistake easily. This is the reason why I add, markers every 15 stitch. So I gotta go back and then, start from there. only what 6 stitch I had to go back, right? But if you didn't add the markers, maybe you finish and at the very end you find out which is you have to go back all the way down, which is better. Of course, you have to go back less, right? Anyway, so keep following the chart. Just before the increasing, I am going to show you how to do leash opening if you want, because this pattern didn't include the leash opening at the back. So I decide I am going to add leash opening on row number 7 because there's only one color. It's easy, right? And then next, the row number 8, I have to, increase some stitch. So I thought this is the time. This is very busy moment. You have to think few things. 1, leash opening. 2, increasing. You don't want to do the leash opening when it's increasing row. 3, where is the dog legs are. Okay? I add 2 different color of markers. Orange one for dog's leg. Green one for leash opening. Okay, so where the begin marker is, that's dog's right leg. And 15 stitch away from the begin marker, that's gonna be dog left legs for size extra small and small. If you're knitting size medium and large, 31 stitch away is dog left legs. And those 2 orange marker, the leg locator marker, you have to count from those 2 markers towards to back. Okay? Right leg and left leg, right? And then count evenly towards to back, and right in the center you have to add 2 markers for leash opening. I took 12 stitches for leash opening. There's no leash opening for this pattern, so if you don't understand, please leave the comment in below. You probably understood what I'm talking about, but if you don't get it, please leave your comment. So on the 7th row, I am going to do leash opening, which is actually 1 buttonhole technique. And the yarn color is red. So knit until the leash opening marker and right side. Okay, you have to bind off, but you have to watch how to do it. Yarn front, slip 1 purlwise with the yarn front, and then repeat of yarn back, slip 1 purlwise, then PSSO, pass slip stitch over, and try it again, yarn back, and then slip 1 purlwise, and then PSSO. Easy. Slip 1 and PSSO, slip 1, PSSO. I said I am going to do 12 stitch. And you really have to watch carefully, because when I hit the second leash opening marker, I still do only 11 stitch to, bind off. Here comes. This is 10 and 11. So where's the last 12 stitch, which is right there? That's the 12 stitch to bind off. So remove the marker and then again slip 1 purlwise, then bind 12 off. There you go. So the stitch on the last stitch on the right needle, that's belong to left needle. So transfer that stitch back. So now it's not connected anymore. Then turn the work. Now wrong side. You bind off 12, so now you have to add new cast. And this time you have to add whatever the number you bind off plus 1. So I am going to add 13 cast. And this method called cable cast. You put the right needle in between first and second and then pull through the yarn and hook onto left. And before you pull the working yarn, put the right needle into first and second stitch. If you pull the yarn hard before you put the right needle in, it's going to be really hard to put the right needle in between first and second stitch. It's really hard to see. Sorry about that. There you go. And put the right needle in and then grab it and pull long and kind of try to loose. There you go. And again, I am going to add 13 stitch because you have to add new cast with 1 extra stitch. Whatever you bind off plus 1. So I bind off 12 stitch. So I am going to add 13 new cast. This is wrong side method. And after you add whatever stitch number, for me 13 stitch, you will turn the work. And still, I'm on row number 7, right? That's why we call this 1 row buttonhole. If it's, the 2 rows buttonhole, it's easy, simple. You bind off and then next row, you just add it, But this is 1 row buttonhole. So it's a little bit different. There you go. Is this the last cast? There you go. 13 stitch. And now you turn the work. And after you turn the work on, you face to right side, obviously, and it's not connected, right? So let's connect. The yarn has to be back and then slip 1 purl wise, the one you transfer it back earlier, and then PSSO. With the last extra new cast. There you go. It's hard, but take your time. PSSO. And this last white stitch belongs to left needle. So you have to transfer that stitch back onto left needle again. And then you keep knitting the whatever you're on the row. For me, it's red and knit. So just knit. If you don't do that, there's only one stitch on that row, which is no good, right? So you gotta be very careful, transfer back and forth, back and forth. But now you have one row buttonhole, which is leash opening, has done. And later on, you have to add, the stitch back on, the mark back on, right? I'm going to add temporary marker on, count 15 stitch. Make sure I didn't add, too many cast or too less, okay? Anyway, so now row number 7 is done, and next row, for me, row 8, has to be increasing row. So let's talk about this increasing. This increasing is not for dogs, the body shape or anything like that. That's because of the design is group of 16. So you have to, adjust the number. That's about it. So if you added, the markers every 15 stitch, what do you have to do? Because, now you want to make it 16 instead of 15. So for me, I am going to add 5 stitches total. So 1 stitch every 15 stitch. What about extra small? 64 to start, and earlier you decrease 4 stitches to make it 60, which is multiple of 15. And now you want to, add some stitch to make it, multiple of 16, right? 60 is 15 times 4. So you will add 4 stitch total within 15 stitch. That's it. Super easy, right? So it's going to be 64 for extra small. And everything is actually in a written pattern. So you just have to read. But I'm going to give you the example for size small. Size small, 92 cast to start, right? And then earlier you decrease 2 stitch to make it 90, which is multiple of 15. And now you want to add some stitch to make it, multiple of 16. So how many stitch you will increase? 6. That's what the pattern says, right? So you will increase 6 stitch total, but you have to increase 6 stitch evenly. So if you add the marker every 15 stitch, you have to, increase 1 stitch every, 15 stitch. And for my size, 96 to start, I decrease 1 to make it 75, which is multiple of 15, and I add the markers, right? So again, I increase 1 stitch every 15 stitch. So I am going to increase 5 stitches total to make it 80. 80 is multiple of 16. And when to increase, it's really up to you. And you don't really have to, increase complete evenly. So, pretty much anytime you want. And then how to increase. I use make one right technique. Some people want to use the knit front and back technique because maybe easier. However, I'm going to show you what it's really like if you do the knit front and back. Okay, right here, knit and front and back. And the back one looks a little bit like a purl stitch right here, right? So I wouldn't recommend it. Make one right, which is use the running thread, pick it up and hook onto right needle, and then that slit you have to knit. This is make one right, increasing. All right. And anyway, I'm still, showing you how to increase and all that. But I want to tell you thing about the this pattern. Again, this pattern is by Drops Design. I put the link in my description box and put the number 0-1010. And please download the written pattern. And the beauty of this company, if you are in North America, uh, you can download North American, written pattern. I guess it's a little bit, different, especially crochet. I'm not quite sure knitting, but, for just in case, I usually uh, click for the American way pattern and then, download it and print it out, right? In case. Again, their website is wonderful. There's tons of free pattern you can, choose from, and they're all beautiful. And obviously, they're, the yarn company store or whatever. And I've actually used their yarn before. Very nice yarn. So if you want to order some, you can. I have actually, the one store near my place that I can, buy their yarn. It's a little bit expensive, but, sometimes I go there and, buy their, stuff. I really like, Drops Design yarn as well. The quality is really good. Anyway, so, if you want to take a gauge, check their, pattern. Okay, I'm not really write everything down in my description box for this time because of the copyright and everything. So, I wrote little bit because, I adjust the number for my yoki. So that's and the leash opening. I think pretty much it. All right. But if you want to ask me something, you can leave the comment below, or you can actually ask them too if you want. Anyway, so next clip, I want to talk about little important stuff. I forgot to tell you and I forgot to do that. So I think this is good tip. So let's look. Here comes. This is the, the end of the row, which is beginning of the row, right? There we go. Look, there is a gap there. Obviously, I totally forgot about. Whenever you change the color at the, biggie marker or whatever, you have to twist the thread. Otherwise, you will have that, the gap opening. Okay? When you twist, obviously, you close the gap, right? You know what I'm saying? I forgot to do that because I was so focused about my, the adjust number and everything. And when you start knitting flat, at the very beginning, same thing, okay? You kind of have to twist. And probably I'll show you later on when I start, knitting in flat. So you have to remember this, around the begin marker, if you change the color, okay, you were knitting in red, and then next row, pink or white, you have to twist them to close that gap. You probably know what I mean when you start knitting. All right? Anyway, after this, you just keep knitting and knitting and knitting until when top of the dog's leg. Whenever you want to start, dog leg, opening, you gotta stop. And if you want to follow the pattern, they said exactly how many inch you have to knit and then stop and then let's do the the leg opening, blah blah blah. So you have to follow, but I didn't follow. I have to kind of put them on to my put it on to my dog and then see like this. Okay, that's my dog's leg, so I am going to knit maybe inch, something like that. My dog is so cute. His name is Wasabi, by the way. Anyway, he's really good, patient for me. So there you go. I needed that little bit more, and I think it's time for me to do the dog leg opening. And this is the place people usually get confused with this pattern. All right, so let's talk about how you do it. And to be really honest with you, do I like this dog leg things? No. But I don't want to, change the pattern. So I'm not going to do my way because, I got a request by one of my viewer to knit this. So I shouldn't really, change much. Anyway, this is my, pattern, dog sweater. And the leg opening is, going kind of across. That's because I want to knit in round. However, this drop design dog sweater, it's not like that. You can't knit in round anymore. As soon as you, did this dog leg opening thing, you now have to separate from the mid chest part and back piece, and then you have to knit flat. And this is the another drops design dog sweater. I knitted it until the dog leg opening and bind off there. The two bind off actually on top of the dog leg and separate the mid chest from the body. You know what I'm saying? Well, I will show you. So, the direction of the leg opening is different now. Not, across. Right? You know what I mean? So, obviously, you have to separate the mid chest and body like a back piece. All right? So, anyway, you have to kind of put that information in your head and then look at my video. You probably know what I mean. The reading pattern sometimes confused. Okay? So, and one more thing you have to remember, everybody starts leg opening on different row. because of different shape and all that, right? My leg opening was row number 17 for size small chart. Okay, so you have to write it down because the back piece and mid chest same design. So row number 17, right leg, red 1 and white 1. That's the start. However, you have to bind first one off. There you go. And then knit rest of the 15 stitch, which is repeat of white 1 and red 1 until last 2. Then last 2 should be white 2 stitch. And please remember, I just bind off first stitch. So 1 stitch missing here. And this is the mid chest part. So I had 16 stitch there, right? Now I have a 15 stitch and then first stitch is now missing. This is so important, okay? And here comes. Now 15 stitch because I bind off 1. And those 15 stitch will be mid chest part, and I am going to knit later. So I have to transfer those 15 stitch onto stitch holder. And for the size medium and large, the pattern says 31. 31 stitch from the the begin marker. That's gonna be mid chest because bigger dog, right? So you really have to read the pattern, but any size, the first stitch is now missing. Okay, there you go. And now you have to move on to body part. However, you have to do something for left leg now, which is another bind off. Okay, so again, this is still row number 17, red 1 and white 1 to start, but you have to bind off first one. So knit red 1 and white, then bind off. This bind off location would be dog's leg. First bind off, right leg. Second bind off, left leg. And now you separate mid chest and body. I mean back. And then this one, the body, first stitch on the right side, missing. Mid chest, same thing. First stitch on right side, missing because I did bind off. You have to remember this. This is so important. If you forget about this, your design will ruined, and I will tell you why. Once again, I'm telling you, mid chest, first stitch bind off. So 1 missing, and the body part, 1 missing at the very beginning on right side, not the right and left. Okay, right or wrong side, right side. And after this, you have to follow the chart, until enough leg opening. And you have to knit the body first. And I gotta tell you thing. I was on row number 17, right? Which means next row number 18 will be wrong side, purl side. Okay, so now right side you're reading from right to left, but wrong side you have to read the chart from left to right. And now you really have to think, okay, where is the missing stitch? Okay, for the right side, the first stitch missing. However, when you look at the sweater from the wrong side, it's gonna be the last stitch is missing. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit confusion there. But when you get used to, you know what I'm saying. And I am going to tell you again. This is end of the row 17 for me, which is right side, outside of the, sweater, right? And now you turn the work. And now you're facing to wrong side because, again, you're knitting wrong side. And I'm actually telling you one more time, if you're looking at the wrong side, you have to read the chart from left to right. So where is the missing stitch? At the end, not the first stitch. First stitch missing if you're looking at the right side of the sweater. So little bit tough, but row number 18, wrong side, reading the chart from left to right, which is white one and red one. And white one, red three, white three, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the one stitch at the end with some bracket, white one. That's the missing stitch. I wrote it down for, just in case you got confused. When you look at the my, chart, row number 18, supposed to be white two stitch at the end. However, again, missing last stitch, right? That's why I put the bracket. The last white one stitch is missing. So obviously you are not going to knit that stitch with some bracket. You know what I'm saying? I hope you do. Because this is very confusing. There you go. This is the one. Okay? And red and white. Red, and there you go. And supposed to be two white, but I finished with one white. Then turn the work. I'm on row 19. So now the first stitch is missing. That's why first stitch white one is with some bracket, right? So supposed to be two white to start, but again, one missing. So you don't need that, first stitch with some bracket. And just keep knitting after this. And now I want to talk about different thing about this pattern. I don't remember the row number, but the wrong side, I was knitting with the two different color of yarn, and then next row all white, right? And I'm still knitting in flat. And then next row, suddenly, again, back on two different yarn, which is white and red. However, you probably notice if you're in knitting flat, you have to knit, one direction and come back to bring the yarn back. But, sometimes this chart use two yarn and didn't come back, and then next row use only one yarn, which means the yarn tail, working yarn, spread. You have to cut it and then attach for, next row. I guess, that's what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? I hope you understand. For the mid chest, if it's 15 or 14, stitch away, maybe you can kind of carry on. However, the back piece is, like 65, 70 stitches apart, right? So here's the thing, my white working yarn is top and the red yarn is at the bottom, spread. Because, one row I didn't use the red, so the red didn't come back. But now I am going to use two color, which is white and red. So I have to cut the yarn and then reattached. This is not much you can do, but I thought I should tell because, you just go, what? How can I knit, right? So you have to cut and reattach. That's the only way you have to do, okay? And here comes. I think I'm done. Enough for leg opening. 2-inch. Okay, so that's enough. So you stop right there, and now you have to knit mid chest. Okay, so, and designs are all same. If it's only 15 stitch, do you really have to knit to fair isle? Oh no, but the pattern says you do. So okay, first of all, transfer all the mid stitch onto needle. I have a different type of needle, same the size. So I'm gonna leave the needle for back, and then I'm gonna use different needle for mid chest. If you don't have it, you can use the scrap yarn to transfer and all that. So go back to the leg row, which is row number 18, I believe, because I knit across, then transfer the mid stitch onto the stitch holder, right? So I have to start with row number 18 for me. Okay, so this time again, one missing stitch, same thing as body. So one missing, first one missing on right side, and last stitch missing on wrong side. Then row number 18 is wrong side. So this way, this time, last stitch will be missing. So I'm not gonna, tell you every detail because you've been through, you've done, and you watch, so you probably know what I'm talking about. So just knit until same row for the back piece. My dog sweater pattern is kind of easy. And this is a little bit complicated. It's not that bad, you know, but if you like the, complicated design like this, not much you can do, and I don't know. Like I said earlier, this sweater shape is like a tube. So the sweater fits well. Yes and no. So you better knit little bit bigger size. You don't want put the tight sweater on your dog, especially this type of sweater, which means the tube type, not increasing or decreasing, depend on the dog's shape, right? You know what I'm saying? So you always want to take the bigger size if you're not sure. That's better deal. So I knit until the same row as back piece. Now I would like to reconnect. For me, row 34, and it has to be right side, even if this row 34 or 5 wrong side. However, it doesn't really matter because now you have to knit in round. So forget it. Just start with right side. And then whenever you reconnect, you have to add new cast where you bind off. I just did the the first new cast. You can do when you come back around. However, I add first one there and start keep knitting. And my pattern is the repeat of pink 1 and white 3. So you have to do this. I could wait till the one solid color, but I didn't. It's up to you. So now I have to think the design, also the connection, but connection is easy, right? Just add one, a new cast, exactly same place where you bind off, which is, there is, the separation. So that's the where you have to add. So here is the time you have to, add one, new cast here. And then after you add new cast, just keep knitting. That's it. And one more thing. This sweater, oh my goodness, you have to weave so many ends off. There's lots of yarn everywhere. So you have to, weave lots of ends off. That's actually kind of headache for me. Anyway, after reconnect, just follow the pattern. And again, after you reconnect, which means you have to knit in round. No more wrong side. I really don't like, I wasn't enjoying Fair Isle on wrong side because it's pearl. I don't know, I just don't like it. I'm not good at it, you know? And then just put the sweater on your dog if you want and make sure everything is okay. Should be okay, right? And, you know, sometimes here and there, uh, pattern says, you know, you have to adjust the number to multiple of 10. Extra small, there's no adjustment. And, you know, for the size small to large, you have to adjust. My, you know, whole stitch count is 80, which is multiple of 10. So I don't have to decrease or I don't have to increase. So you just follow the, you know, the pattern. And obviously, I move the marker every 10 stitch now instead of every 16. And then knit until enough length for tummy. If you finish the chart, you know, you don't need to add any more design. So using with the main color of yarn, you know, for me, red, and use red and knit and knit and knit until, you know, enough length for tummy. And then, you know, for tummy, you kind of have to stop, you know, way earlier than, you know, back piece because, you know, they have to pee and you don't want the sweater to get wet or dirty, right? So that's actually up to you when to stop because of the, you know, dog's length and your gauge maybe. So you can't really, you know, tell when to stop. You know, the pattern says so, but you have to make sure about it. So now I want to talk about the, you know, the tummy stitch and, you know, back piece. The pattern says tummy stitch you have to bind off, but I didn't because I don't really like the knit up stitch. You know, I want to use original stitch as much as possible, and which is, you know, up to you. If you want to follow the, you know, the pattern completely, you can do that. But if you want to, you know, save the original stitch, you know, you can do that too. Anyway, and for me, for my dog, that's the, you know, enough length for tummy. And what I have to do is keep the tummy stitch onto the, you know, stitch holder, then keep knitting back piece, rest of them. And for tummy means, you know, the mid chest, and rest of them are body or back piece, you know, same as the, you know, dog leg opening. And then I have to decrease both side to create that, you know, the carve. You know what I'm saying? So I am going to knit until that, you know, mid chest part, you know, inside of the mid chest. You know what I'm saying? Between, you know, two legs, right? And then try to transfer all the tummy stitch onto stitch holder. As you can see, it's about the same length. Maybe this time a little bit longer because I am going to add rib, right? So you really have to think, you know, how long you want to, you know, add rib later on, right? So if you want to have the longer rib, you have to stop earlier. I'm showing you the design. Supposed to be the white heart in pink background, but I use the kind of light, pink, so you can't really see. So if you want to choose the color of pink, you have to choose right pink. Anyway, I add the green marker for the tummy, which is underneath of the both legs. The right leg using the biggie marker, right? So just knit across until the green marker, which is the bottom of the left leg. And again, the pattern says you have to bind off, but you will reconnect later on, right? So why not keep the stitch? And I didn't see why not, so I decided I am going to save the original stitch. So I knit across instead of the binding off, and then transfer all those tummy stitch onto stitch holder. I'm sorry to, and after I remove the marker, I knit one and then transfer because I need that, working yarn attached to left needle. So that's why, I knit one more and then transfer one stitch back onto left needle. Then transfer the mid, tummy part. And again, you have to knit back and forth in flat, but you have to decrease both sides. And this decreasing method is a little bit different than my decreasing part, and I understand. That's because first 3 rows and last 3 rows you decrease quite a bit. Like for me, I have to decrease 2 stitch or 3 stitch, I don't remember, but you're not using knit two together or SSK to decrease. You have to bind off, and it's not decreasing smoothly, but don't worry about it. Okay, so the pattern says at the beginning, every beginning of the row, you have to decrease, bind off some stitch. So you have to follow the number. Anyway, the first stitch I already knit, right? So just transfer to the right needle, and then knit one more, then bind off. And I am going to bind off one more to bind off. After that, just knit till end. That's because the pattern says every beginning of the row you have to bind off to decrease, not the end. So whenever you finish, you turn the work, and now you're making purl, knitting wrong side, right? Then now you do bind off. Again, that's because the pattern says every beginning of the row. Well, eventually you will decrease evenly, so you don't really have to worry about it. And the reason why they do this way, I don't know. Anyway, now I'm on wrong side and purl 2, then decrease 2, because that's what they say. The pattern says 2 stitch decreasing every beginning of the row for 3 times, and then 1 decreasing at the very beginning of the row for 8 times, and then 2 decrease for 3 rows, something like that, for the size small. So every sizes different numbers, so you really have to look into it. So you have to go back and forth, and then knit more length. Okay, so for me 3, 8, 3, so 14 rows total I have to do this. And after that, again, I am reconnecting front and back. But now the both side, there's no stitch, right? So you have to knit up for both side. And if you bind off earlier, instead of the saving them for tummy, you have to knit up that part as well. So again, start knitting all the way down, and the other side you have to knit up, and obviously you have to knit up same number of knit up for each side. And can you see there's no smooth decreasing? But don't worry about it. When you knit up on the edge, you don't really see those shape anymore. It's gonna be smooth, so don't worry about it. And after reconnect, you will make rib, which is knit 2 and purl 2, which means the whole stitch count should be multiple of 4. And I was really having tough time to knit up because it was binding off. It was tight. So I used my crochet hook to knit up. I usually use the SSK and knit together because to create the shape at the end, because I usually decrease 1 stitch at a time every row, and then that way easy to knit up. This time binding off, so it's quite tight there, so it was kind of hard to knit up, and plus I don't like knitting up. So anyway, it's a long video. I wasn't expecting this long, because this isn't my pattern. So I thought I didn't have to talk very much, but I thought maybe better tell you little thing here and there. Anyway, I'm glad I saved the tummy stitch, because I seriously don't like knitting up. So tummy stitch, I just knit straight from the stitch holder. You could transfer the needle, but I didn't. And after this, you just knit up the other side, and then let's start making rib again. Repeat off, knit 2 and purl 2. I don't know if people noticed that or not. I put the picture, I posted the picture in my community, and my bottom hem, the rib is actually knit 1 and purl 1. I totally forgot about the the knit 2 and purl 2 rib. And at the first time I made the the rib knit 1 and purl 1. and I redo it because I just didn't like it. The top neck, knit 2 and purl 2, and at the bottom, knit 1 and purl 1. I didn't really like it, so I redo it. So you gotta be very careful, knit 2 and purl 2. From second, row, just knit over knit and purl over purl stitch. And I use the stretchy bind off. Can you see? This is the knit 1 and purl 1 rib. I use the same clip, but forget about it. I just want to show you how to do the stretchy bind off. The pattern didn't say anything like that, but definitely recommend you to use the stretchy bind off this time, because the fair isle sometimes very hard to put the sweater on your dog. So if it's very stretchy at the bottom, easier to put this on to dog. Anyway, with the tapestry needle, okay, I already started, but I'm going to tell you. First of all, you have to put the tapestry needle like purl 2 together. So 2 stitch, 2 together. But you are not going to drop any stitch off. And knit the first one, then drop the stitch off. Do one more time, purl 2 together and keep the stitch on, and then knit first one, then drop the stitch off. This is the stretchy bind off. And I recommend you to do this stretchy bind off for leg sleeves because it's much easier. Anyway, this is done at the bottom, and as you can see, I fix it, knit 2 and purl 2 hem now. And also I've done, one sleeve, and I will show you how to do for the sleeve. And again, I use the stretchy, bind off for sleeve. This way, much easier for you to, put that on. And the sleeve, super easy. You just have to knit up around. That's it. The needle I used was 3mm needle, and, sleeves 2, right? So once you done first one, you have to remember how many, stitch you knit up. And again, this should be multiple of 4. And then I actually knit up as much as I can because, bigger sleeves better because easier for you to put it on, right? And right on the edge, you have to knit up. And I'm actually going to show you one little tip later on after you knit up because, okay, example, I knit up like, 56 for the other side of the leg. And I'm trying to knit up 56. However, if I did 3 times, but I only could knit up, 55. What are you going to do? Well, I'll show you. You don't want to redo it again, right? So if it's only 1 or 2 stitches difference, you can fix it, okay? You just have to, kind of see where you can add 1 more stitch, and I decide right there, okay? And I, add markers, right? Anywhere pretty much. But if you want to, add 1 more stitch in the middle of the jammed knit up area, maybe it's not a good idea. Anyway, after the knit up, you start right the repeat of knit 2 and purl 2. And then my trick is increasing 1 stitch because I was supposed to knit up 56, but I could only knit up 55, right? So I need to add 1 stitch and knit 2 and purl 2, that's the rib, right? So the second stitch of knitting, I have to do it, okay? Because I am going to increase 1 stitch with knit front and back. Knit front and back, the first stitch looks knit, but the second stitch looks like a purl. That's why, the second stitch of the knitting, I should do this. Okay, so knit first one, and this is second knit stitch. So knit there, and then the back loop, knit there. There you go. I increase 1 stitch to make it 56. And then knit first one and looks like a purl, second one. So I'm going to just make 1 more purl there. So purl 2 there, right? Knit second one and then purl 2. There you go. Now I have multiple of 4 stitch and same as the other side. So after this, knit until your desired one and then stretchy cast off. That's about it. It's long, video, but it's worth to knit this project. I had a great time. Enjoy knitting. See you next time.